this is Carl Smith. This is Austin Abstract Artist Podcast number 12. This one is going to be with Chuck Voelter. He is awesome painter. I'm excited to talk to him for a lot of reasons. One of them is because he's successful. He's got his hands in a lot of different professions. He's had experience in movies, set design, all kinds of stuff. So, and he seems to be successful. I think he owns a company that makes canvases, which is pretty cool, called Canvas Land, I think. But we're going to talk about that in the podcast. I want to thank you all for listening. I'm going to keep this short. I'm having a bad day, which you don't really want to hear about. But yeah, let's get through this. It's Sunday. I think it's Easter, because I keep hearing about it everywhere I go. which is all right. But this guy's from Temple, which, living in Austin, I had some friends in Temple. Everyone I knew in Temple was pretty devout Christians. And it's Texas. So it's kind of what, happens here a lot. But I'd be interested to talk about some art making, and some successful business strategies for being an artist. And I think this guy's in his 50s, so that means he's going to know some stuff. So, all right, talk to you later. Bye.
Mom was all apologetic. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
So you're from Temple?
I'm from Temple, Texas.
Which is like, everyone I know from Temple is pretty hardcore Christian.
Well, I guess nowadays it's that way. I mean, I think everybody grew up going to church for sure.
Yeah.
Just that's a good segue to start with, because I just went to church. My mom had her comfort. It was the Easter Vigil, and they bring new people into the church, so.
Yeah. It's intense, man.
It was intense, and I grew up a Lutheran, so. Lutheran and Catholicism have, a lot in common in terms of the liturgies and the sort of the ceremony. So It was fun. It was interesting to, get a blessing in a church. I don't really do a lot of that, so.
Are you an atheist?
I wouldn't say that. I probably more a deist or an agnostic,
Okay.
I think to say atheist says that, that like we're it. And I don't think we're it, but that leaves a pretty wide open canvas out there for what is it, So.
Yeah. It doesn't come up a lot on the podcast.
Right.
A lot in Texas, it can get very tricky quick.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, growing up,
I'm always scared to approach it.
I had a lot of, I grew up going to church, and my grandfather and grandmother always were very active, and my dad played the organ, and I just kind of fell away after a while. Moved away from Temple when I was 17, and but I don't regret getting that background and having that foundation.
Yeah.
Of a sort of a family, with sort of a set of rules. But I've kind of evolved to a point where I feel like that's just a good way to be. Whatever works for you, whatever gets you to that place, is all good with me.
What were your parents doing when you were really young, like 5 and 6 and stuff?
Well, my dad was an architect.
Oh.
I grew up, he was always designing buildings, and he did theater. He was a jazz musician, played the saxophone, and
really?
Played the piano, could sight read. Super talented cat. He's passed away now, but
what was his name?
His name was Charlie Voelter, and my name is Chuck Voelter. I guess you'll do an intro.
Yeah, I do a quick intro, but yeah, this is Austin Abstract Artist Podcast number 12. Chuck Voelter. I'm glad you said your name, because
no worries.
I didn't know if there was like a Voelter or a
Voelter. No.
Is it German?
It is German,
okay.
and we understand that there they say Felter.
Oh, jeez.
And so there are relatives of ours, distant relatives, named Felter.
Who felt stuff?
Felter. Well, because that's how it was written down. They would ask them their name, at immigration, and they'd say Felter, and so they'd write Felter.
Yeah.
But anyway, I know Voelter is what we say.
Voelter. Okay.
And Charlie, my dad, I mean, if anyone's driven between here and Waco or Dallas, the Big Dome Convention Center
Yeah.
was one of his projects. So,
Oh.
yeah, as an architect.
Wow.
And they, so many I find it really interesting that his work is all being like remodeled or torn down, or like, he's a great modern architect in this small town, and it really makes me rethink my ideas of like permanence, like what's permanent. I always thought, well, my dad was an architect, and so he built these strong steel brick buildings, be around for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
And I just design sets and do, art directy, fluffy things that won't last. And it turns out that my work will probably last longer than his, in a weird way. So,
I hope so.
But I mean that's a whole chapter we can get into if you'd like to. But
Yeah, well, it's interesting how much stuff you're doing, and how I am interested in how parents influence positively or not the choice. But you are, I mean, you do make stuff like buildings, and you do interior design, and
the apple didn't fall far from the tree with my dad, who I'm talking about. Like
That's
I
great.
said, there was this theater component, which led me into stage design and the entertainment business, and
which is a great racket.
yeah, I mean, it can be. I mean, it my young life. I mean, I played music. I don't know if you dug that far back, but I was like the little 4-year-old kid that played drums, and everybody went, "Wow, look at that kid go!"
Wow.
I was one of those kids, and so I by the time I was 15, I was playing drums professionally for guys much older than me. There in Temple. Temple's a weird little town. There's a lot of arts and a lot of liberal, or there was when I was growing up. A lot of hospitals there, so there's a lot of doctors and like highly educated health professionals from all over the world. It was really a mecca for a while.
Is that because of the Colleen and like the military around there? Or?
No, it was because of the intersection of the Santa Fe Railroad east-west and I-35 when it came through north-south.
Wow.
And Santa Fe Railroad built a hospital there, and so that became big. And then Scott and White came about. That's where Scott and White Hospital is based.
Oh,
there. So
interesting.
and it was next to Mayo Clinic, this second largest hospital complex in the country. At one time, I don't know where it stands now, but so I always figured that's why there was a demand in our high school there for. I mean, football was huge, of course.
Sure.
Temple's always had perennial sports teams, but the arts were always given a lot of attention.
Huh.
A lot of play. The community theater there is amazing. Or it was at that time. Again, I haven't lived there in a while, but
Yeah.
so yeah, that was sort of the start. I mean, I always kind of drew. My dad drew things for a living, and so I always kind of drew and painted, and was always wanting to make stuff. But it took me a long time to come around to just being an abstract painter.
Sure.
I mean, but
Yeah, that's tough. It doesn't happen right away usually.
well, I mean, I actually have seen it happen though. Like people go straight from the cradle to the abstract art gallery. Like
Wow.
I mean, well, I mean, by the time they're 30-ish,
Yeah.
But yeah, I my own particular route took longer. Like I said, I did the music thing, and then
So it was with your dad too? Were you playing jazz stuff with him?
well, we did theater stuff together. I mean, he would be in the show, I'd be in the music and the orchestra, or always kind of doing something with the show. And then it's funny because I just designed a show for Austin High School. They did Gypsy, a musical, so I did all the set designs for them. But yeah, so but yeah, I played the drums, and I started playing in a rock band, and he was sort of more jazz. I mean, so we didn't really, we collaborated on things when I was a young man, but then, I kind of went off in search of the rock and roll thing.
Oh, really?
Moved to Dallas, playing in a rock band, learning how to build things. Had some furniture makers and cabinet makers in the group, of people I knew there. And
Wow.
so I started learning how to do that, to survive, because if you're playing music or same with any art, you have to have some other gig,
Or at least a plan B. Yeah.
Well, while you're coming up, it sure helps. That's, and beyond. I mean, that's why I have my business now, but I can get to that in a minute. But yeah, so I learned to make things. I've always loved to make things. I became really a competent woodworker and learned how to weld and make things like that. But
and how to run a business too. I mean, if you're around someone who like a successful architect, just seeing the type of work it takes to, because it's one thing to just do it, but to actually make a living consistently at it over a long time.
Well, I got really a strong work ethic from my dad, but he wasn't the best at business either. He was sort of a bit scattered and creative and always kind of.
Jazz will do that too.
Yeah, he wasn't exactly the most pragmatic guy, but God bless him. But so I don't know, where were we? You gotta keep me on track.
You're playing music in Dallas.
So playing music in Dallas, did that for about 15 years or so.
Geez.
Yeah, and finally went and did the community college route there in Dallas.
Okay.
Kind of stopped the whole music thing, played in a lot of original bands and cover bands, and did a lot of bad things. A lot of
I hope so,
very bad things in Dallas. Dallas is a crazy city.
It kind of is.
It really is. You can get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think it gets, when you get Houston, it gets worse. But Dallas, I've always liked the art scene and the people.
Sure.
There's diversity and
there's
a different type of nicety. I mean, there's the racist stuff, there's all the weirdness, but it's not like when you get down to Houston is another type of thing. But Dallas can be crazy.
It is. I mean, it's just so there's a lot of great people there. I think that Dallas is constantly in search of a soul, and
Sure.
trying to find its soul. And I have some great friends living in North Oak Cliff and are kind of part of that renaissance, and it's really neat.
Yeah.
But they do have a great gallery scene there. A lot of really good galleries, good artists in the design district. You've ever been there?
Yeah.
So then let's see. I don't know. Just to finish up my history. I don't know. I think it's interesting to me always. Like, what path did you take to get there?
Yeah. So community college, you're studying just basic stuff, right? Like just
figure drawing, design classes. And doing like remedial math and stuff.
Sure.
Because I was a terrible student in high school. So I had to do major sort of like makeup work. With math and just all that stuff.
Yeah.
And but I was taking figure drawing and painting and doing all of that, and I worked my way into a scholarship at SMU.
Oh, scholarship! Wow.
Yeah, well,
that's an expensive, pretty Southern Methodist.
SMU's it's not cheap, but it's it was a pretty good deal. What I got, they through the community college there, Richland College, they had a special thing going, with them, and they. From the first week I was on campus, I knew what would transfer. I think I ended up transferring like 65 hours to SMU, which is, as you know, is
that's great.
That's a major amount.
Yeah.
So I got to SMU and I learned from some really great folks there. Bill Commodore, who's now passed away. A fellow named Steve Wilder.
These are painters?
They're painters. They were just instructors there. Bill's pretty well known. A fellow named Barnaby Fitzgerald, who's an amazing person and artist.
Was there any abstraction happening yet?
Well, Bill painted pretty abstract. I ended up being pretty influenced by a guy named Scott Barber, who actually has now passed away, and some folks listening might have heard of him. He was a grad student at SMU while I was a student there, and I thought he was really a divine painter, and I walk respectfully on some of the ground that he covered. He ended up going some different directions before he passed away with his work. But I tend to linger on some of his thoughts on occasion.
He stayed in Dallas, pretty much?
He did. He was a teacher at St. Mark's after he got out of SMU. But
Okay.
so I get my art degree, and I want to be a painter, but I need a job, So
Yeah.
this is one of those kind of life changing events. I was working in the scene shop at SMU as a job on campus. For a while, I had a job as an assistant to the museum exhibit designer at the Meadows, which was amazing because I got to hold a Goya in my hands, like with gloves, But
Sure.
Madmen of Saragossa, this little painting,
Wow.
it was out of its frame. It was being worked on, and my boss just said, "Do you want to hold this for a second?"
Yes.
Yes, I do. And just to feel the power, but it was really cool. But my schedule wouldn't work for that job, so I ended up going to the scenery shop, the theater department there in the same building because I knew how to build stuff. I was like a 30-year-old guy, probably one of the older guys, except for some of the old students. You always have like the kids, they're there, and then you got like the older transfers, and then like the returning students who are in their 50s and 60s and are like a hoot.
Yeah.
But I was one of those mid guys, and so anyway, I'm working in the scene shop, and when I graduate, one of the guys there says, "Hey, a guy here in town is looking for a designer, or you should call him."
Mm-hmm.
And so I called the office of Peter Wolf, who was a venerable stage designer. 35, 40 years he designed the sets for the Dallas Summer Musicals and many other things. Very, very well-known guy. So I went and interviewed with them and got the job with them as an associate designer. And so for 3 years I mentored with him.
And this is still in Dallas.
Well, I was in Dallas, and he was probably 75 at that time.
Okay.
He was an elderly fellow. He has since passed away too. But he when working for him, we got the job to do Barney. Okay, the dinosaur Barney. I know. And so I was the set designer for the original Barney sets, which at the time they hired us, they were going from a garage enterprise to a big thing.
Cool.
They had become popular. They were hiring Irene Corey to do their costume, well-known costume designer. And so we were filling up the soundstage at Las Colinas with sets,
Awesome.
for the schoolyard, the tree house, all the original Barney stuff. Like, I don't know if I'm inspiring loathing or any kind of fond memories for anyone out listening.
Well, it sounds like you got it on the ground floor of something pretty fucking big.
Well, what it did, and what I was amazed by, Carl, is that when I worked for a juggernaut, and when I ended up going to L.A., I just skipped forward in the story. I left. I applied and got accepted as a graduate student at UCLA in stage design.
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah.
And let's see. So I did a year of that program, and you couldn't really have anything built for the stage until you were a third-year designer, and I just couldn't wait.
Yeah.
And I was having some life issues living in L.A., so I quit that and just started working, and that started like a 7-year run. I wound up in the union as a union production designer, which is like the highest sort of classification you can get in the Art Directors Guild, which is what it was called at that time. It's got a longer title now, but I could still do a movie if I wanted to pay $100,000 in back dues,
Right.
which I'm not sure I do. But
And you've worked on movies too. Was that starting?
that's when that all kind of went on. Yeah, and I actually was painting this whole time. When I graduated SMU, I was with a degree in painting. So I mean, I was a painter. Like by then, in that. I knew how to make him stretch a big canvas. I knew how to start and finish a painting. I mean, just sort of the mechanics of it. Not that it was any good, but so I go out there and I start doing that work, and I'm painting at the same time, and I start actually, you get involved with renting paintings to the industry, because there's just a lot of that in
LA,
video and film and those sort of things. Copyrights and clearances are a huge issue. So
Sure.
you have to rent everything, and it's all signed off on, because you'll get in huge trouble. I mean, if you
you have that image in your thing and you're fucked.
yeah. So I was doing that.
Is that pretty lucrative, renting art? It seems like it's more exposure, but you're getting some money, right?
It was bread. That was bread and butter money. You know,
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
it would just kind of trickle in, just an income stream, as you call it.
I'm always looking at, like, Mad Men and stuff. I'm always pausing. It's like, where the hell is
All rented, yeah.
all rented, but all like really good and all.
You know, they just have, there are just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces of art.
Hundreds of artists.
Always rotating. Yeah. So, in fact, just this last year, I took a trip out to LA with my family, and I took them some art.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, some new stuff to rent out. So anyway, yeah. So did that. Flash forward. Let's see. I did.
So what year did you get to LA?
Okay, that was 1997,
Oh, okay.
98,
Wow.
something like that.
Cool.
And
you're like you're 52 or something.
I'm 51. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. That's
I
great.
was born the day John F. Kennedy was killed. The day.
Fuck.
Like November 22nd, 1963.
Jesus.
Yeah, that was my actual birthday. So
Welcome to the.
it's bizarre. Every year there's an anniversary. Every 5 years, or even every year, they're like Kennedy's death. I'm like, great.
Can't really say when your birthday is. Just
Well,
take it easy.
Well, it's amazing if I have to show my ID to people. Like, it's still, people know the date.
Sure.
It's like older people, I guess, especially go, huh? What is that date?
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, like the film business and working in LA is probably the most turbulent and colorful, part of my entire life. I
Yeah.
mean,
Were you booking like shows, group shows? Were you in galleries or anything?
I really wasn't doing a lot of painting. I mean, I was at home and sort of just for the side and for little art direction projects. You could always just put your own art up, and sign off on it, so you wouldn't have to go rent. And
Yeah.
so I made art. I actually did a movie in San Francisco that was about an artist, and so I had to. And we had actually a portrait artist, a really good friend of the director, a really great artist named Kareem Hamid, make all of the finished portraits for this artist. And at the end of the movie, he has this show, but I had to make all the in between paintings. Lots of scenes of this guy painting, and so I got to use my acumen that way a little bit.
What's the movie?
Well, it was called Save It for Later at the time, but it's now called Water Under the Bridge, which, a strange story. The lead guy who played the artist was a kid named Scott Cooper,
Okay.
who, and I thought, well, he's a pretty good actor and he's all right, and I really wasn't sure, as you never are if they're not like a name person, where their future lies in the business, but he ended up writing and directing the movie Crazy Heart.
Oh.
And so now he's a writer-director with a lot of power. So
Yeah.
you just never know. And
Never know.
this was a San Francisco-made movie, which, at the risk of alienating anybody that makes movies in San Francisco, I mean, it's just kind of movies light. They're
Sure.
with an Lite.
Yeah.
You never quite. The scene there is just, they overachieve. But like
Yeah.
there's sort of this imaginary competition with Los Angeles.
Yeah. That happens.
Los Angeles is not aware of it, though.
Oh yeah, it happens in the
Not
art scene
aware at
too.
all.
San Franciscan painters, they have got a great scene, but they're so close to LA. The
And
LA thing. Just,
They're very insular, and they have this thing. Yeah, I mean,
can't compete with-
Yeah.
that city.
It's true, and we can talk about that. Just in I'll get to more of my art life. I mean, part of coming here, I mean, I really wanted to. I've been back in Austin 10 years now.
Oh.
And I'm, I've got some galleries, and I'm shown at like 3 or 4 of the galleries here in Austin, but I don't go out, basically. So
Yeah.
I don't really know. I mean, I go out to East and I'll like look around and meet some people, but I'm just not part of the scene.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to kind of just come and just chat with you a little bit, and it's been great listening to some of the other podcasts too, just to get to know some of the Austin artists and maybe say, hey, here I am. I'd love to, and we can talk about, my business too.
Participating, yeah.
But
there is a lot of turnover here. It's a weird scene. I've been here since the 90s, and I see people coming and going, and I wish it was stronger. I wish it was something more that people wanted to participate in, but people just split. I see them splitting all the time.
It's kind of odd. It really is, Carl. I mean, I moved back to Austin in 2005, which when I say I moved back, I mean I grew up in Temple, then I lived in Dallas, then I lived in LA. But I moved back to Austin. It felt like home because I spent a lot of time here as a young person. I mean, you come to Austin a lot,
Yeah.
If you live anywhere nearby,
Yeah, Temple's close. It's
like
hours.
It's right about an hour, yeah. But I moved into a house that was a modern architecture little house. My cousin Joyce lived one street over at the same address.
Okay.
My uncle had lived in a different house, like a cul-de-sac down. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like I landed in a very familiar spot here in Austin.
Yeah, why'd you move back to
Well, yeah, I'll tell you. Well, I was really getting just completely burnt out on the scene in Los Angeles. I had some great experiences, met some great, interesting people, celebrities that I call friends now, but, not like we talk all the time or anything, but worked with some neat people. But it is just such a struggle, and you really have to just catch such an amazing set of breaks and keep that wind in your sails so strong. It's very difficult, and I just kind of...
You mean financially? Or?
Well, just going, if you're going to be a freelance art director, when I was there, you go from job to job to job, which means you're constantly hustling. You're constantly... Now, being an artist there or in Austin or anywhere is really a similar thing. I mean, you have to hustle no matter what in the art, in any kind of the arts, entertainment. But it's really a peculiar mix of just sort of nasty out there at times. I'll just tell one quick anecdote that made me crazy was that, and I can name names. Nobody's going to listen to this. That will. I don't mean that.
No, I got it.
Nobody that will sue me or anything. I doubt will ever hear this. But I read the script for and was going to design a film called Me, You, and Everyone We Know.
Okay.
Which was written and directed by a girl named Miranda July.
Okay.
And she had done a project before and was up and coming, and it was very, a lot of buzz going on, which that happens in LA. So I read the script, I got all of the allegory, I've got all the ideas about what to do. I went and I met and I talked and I had a fantastic interview, and I had this job and it was going to be fantastic. And they hired Michael Mann's daughter.
Of course.
Okay, so they did this sort of weird director-daughter hire. Now, not to say Erin Mann didn't have talent, because she very much does. But I'll get back to her. So the movie is a great little quirky movie. It goes to Cannes, to the most prestigious movie, and wins the Palme d'Or at Cannes. And she's the designer, and she never designs another movie. She decides to be a director. So she squanders, this job that I almost... And really, I mean, that, it was such a gut punch. And a couple of other things, that was just falling out of love with the business there.
Yeah.
Sort of, my wife, Cindy, who she was my high school girlfriend. We grew up together in Temple.
Oh, wow.
She was living here in Austin and had been divorced for a couple of years, and so we got together, and that's sort of how it happened.
You met her here?
Well, we reconnected here. I mean, she actually came to LA a few times. We had a bit of a long distance, and then so I ended up moving here because the film scene was going great. I actually got a couple of film jobs, like when I was first back here, and I thought that was what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, it's turned out that painting has been the bigger career over time.
Wow. The Amy Mann thing, that sounds like you took it a little personally. I mean, it's hard not to, I guess. But...
Oh, I was like, Amy Mann. I love Amy Mann. Oh, Aaron Mann.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Which is Michael Mann's daughter.
Michael Mann, yeah, who's the film director, big time, movie guy. What did he make? Heat, like among other
a bunch of weird LA
explosive action movies. So,
but it's something artists are constantly struggling with, rejection, and I'm always interested in strategies for how the fuck to just not. But it sounds like it got to you and you split. Is that true, or did you just keep going for it? Or?
Well, it did. No, I mean, I just, it was just maybe the 7-year itch out there,
Yeah.
and as I say, I just kind of realized that even guys, I had a mentor. I won't mention his name. If anyone wants to do some research, they can find out who it is. But he did all the production design for Quentin Tarantino, for Wes Anderson's first 3-4 films. Brilliant man, brilliant designer.
Mm-hmm.
But he was constantly in fear of. He would say to me, "Oh God, It's like I'm going to work for. I can't hire you because I'm going to work for you someday. Like I'm going to, like this is going to be my last job." I mean, he was just constantly in fear, and like sure enough, he got left, by the side of the road by Quentin and by Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
But of course, now he just was the designer on 50 Shades of Grey, which is like
oh jeez,
$1 billion movie. I mean, it's embarrassing, but in the business terms, I mean, he's mega gold.
Right.
I mean, it's just he probably got some back end on the deal, and it's just could retire now. If he wants to.
Was Peter Wolf kind of in that? Was he a different sort of animal?
Well, Peter was more of old school. I called him he was the Joe Campbell of stage design. He was a very religious man, but he cussed. He was but he was a Southern gentleman. I mean, he cussed in private. And I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea, but. And he, like I said, he's very, very religious, but very liberal socially, and just an incredibly creative and generous man, with his knowledge, about designing and about life. I mean, they're sort of with him they're kind of interconnected.
Yeah.
And did I answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because the stakes here are way lower. It's not a cut on Austin, but I do get that a lot. I moved to New York. I mean, I know people all the time who back and forth, and you can really get it done here, but it's a different thing.
I'll tell you, Carl. I mean, I have 3 galleries right now, and none of them are here.
Sure.
I mean, they're in Atlanta, in Boston, and Baton Rouge. Yeah,
that's great.
And I've shown with several galleries here. The only one I haven't shown with that I'd like to is Wally Workman. And hi, Wally, if you're listening. But she knows and I know that I really don't fit there.
Who does?
Well, as far as abstract painters, my good friend and client Joyce Howe.
Okay.
Who does the most amazingly, painted landscapes like you work. If you haven't seen her work, you really should.
Check it out. It does seem like late. I don't see a lot of emerging artist galleries.
Yeah.
It seems like late. There's so many late career painters here.
Well,
they just get to...
It's weird. It's the gallery scene it's just kind of weird how it kind of comes and goes. And again, I don't go to a lot of those sort of young, new galleries. I mean, when I moved here, D. Berman was the contemporary gallery that tended to do very conceptual, thoughtful kind of artists, and kind of it was kind of the high end, really, of art.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always been, Davis Gallery and Wally and some others, but, it's the weird thing about, Austin is growing, and it to some degree, you have to throw money at an art scene to really get it going.
And that's happening, isn't it?
It is I think it is happening.
I'm
keep
seeing
it happening, but it's I think it's still in that sort of teenage phase, where there's a lot of back padding that kind of goes on, and it's just sort of. I mean, I say that I don't. God, I knew I was going to get it. I definitely don't want to come off as an a-hole, but I just don't. I don't understand Well, let me put it to you this way. When I lived in LA and worked in the film business, it was such a grind and such a machine and such a thing going on all the time
Yeah.
that when I moved to Austin, people were they'd get a little thing shot and they'd be very self-congratulatory,
Yeah.
and I'd just be like, what? And I mean, and not because I didn't, I had to really sort of step back and understand, hey, only 5-10 things of any importance get shot here a year, whereas there's 350 film permits every day in LA County.
Yeah.
Every single day. So the mechanical business part of that is just constantly churning.
Yeah.
It's just like an amazing thing.
The infrastructure isn't here because of the turnover, and it's a college town.
Right.
The backpacking thing, backpatting thing you said is interesting because, like in a college town like this, there is this environment where you want to encourage artists to, yeah, that's great, but it's like if you're going to be serious, you can't stay here. If you want to make a living, and
that's what I mean, though. You can live here,
just
but
crappily.
you really have to like pay attention though to like other places,
Yeah.
And that's very strategic for me. I mean, like.
Yeah, did you pursue these galleries?
That's a great question. I'd love to talk about that. Yeah, I mean, I very much did. I'll give a shout out to a girl that many of you might know. She has a place over here at Canopy. Mia Baxter. She has a place called Metropolitan, and if you don't know Mia, you should. She started selling my work through Metropolitan years ago here in Austin. I just went in cold to them and just, it's more, there's plenty of, they're galleries, but they're really more placement services. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Galleries that, there's a huge one in Dallas called Blueprint, and they just do corporate placements and things, And some people see that as a bit of a cop out or whatever, and I say, man, sell your art, and get some sales going. It's like you're probably not making like super important work yet anyway. Is the way. So I mean, we got into some sales, and like Mia suggested that I contact this woman Ann Connolly in Baton Rouge, and I did that, and we developed a rapport, and we started selling work. And that sort of Anne was really like she helped me really launch my career, and really I'm not the only one. I have one of my clients in my business now started with her too, and she just has an amazing career going on now. But
can you sell art there? I didn't know there was. I know New Orleans is happening.
Oh my God, Baton Rouge is full of oil money.
Really?
I mean, oh yeah,
awesome.
yeah. There's enough of a scene there now. It's slowed down for me there quite a bit, and that tends to happen sometimes. Is maybe the enthusiasm for your work, in a certain town, it ebbs and flows, and
Sure.
that depends on the salespeople at your gallery. It depends on your participation there,
trends.
Trends.
Yeah.
Yeah. My stuff is not geometric at all, or conceptual at all.
It's very organic.
It's very organic, and that's not really been the trend, So,
really.
But I find it very difficult to like put hard edge object, to do something that goes against. I'm just going to keep painting like I want to paint. But back to I want to answer your question about the gallery. So here's and this is when I'm thinking about doing this interview. I want to, I'm like, what can I say that's helpful?
Yeah.
Because I do want to be helpful, and it's so I'm selling the work there. I would actually drive there, instead of actually, in part it was an economical thing. In part it's just, you've got to be social in that way. So I would drive and stay overnight and like, have dinner with Anne and like some of her salespeople and
take the art.
Yeah, and take the art and like you look at it, talk it through, and that that gives their galleries, their salespeople a chance to sell it, to like work with it, and then. Let's see, you just kind of build from there.
You gotta meet. It's so hard to meet people. That's the biggest thing I hear about on this is just you gotta get in those circles, put yourself in front of people, and I don't see artists. I just don't see them do it. It's so hard. I
mean, I think it's great, like I said, to have a scene, like here in Austin, but but it's not a scene. I mean, I'm having success, sort of semi-success, kind of nationally, or starting to build, but not because I've ever been a part of the Austin scene. You know.
Yeah.
Now again, like this is an opportunity for me to say, hey, you know, contact me. I mean, nonprofits, like anything. I mean, I'd really like to get involved more.
That's the big. The things that survive here, I found, are those.
Well, and
Big media.
I'll use that to segue into my business. I want to talk to people about that because it's important. My gallerist in Baton Rouge, Ann Connolly, my paintings at the time were very kind of watery and sort of a lot of layers of like blues and these colors. So she got me a commission for 12 paintings for a cruise ship. And they were all sort of large but very specific sizes because the designers of these boats, apparently, I mean, they have 67 inches and they want 3.5 inches around, you know, so the painting has to be, you know, exactly.
Perfect.
So
Not design, though? They weren't telling you what to colors or anything?
Just make, they actually referenced with a lot of times the commissions that people know, you know, they'll say, you know, like, make it like this one, you know, or like, I'd like it to be in the vein of these, or
the ones that you've done, or
similar paintings, you know,
Okay.
which I actually love that, you know, because it frees me from making a few decisions, you know. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
I can make a new painting, but I don't have to like make a whole new set of color choices or something, you know, which I agonize over. Usually.
And it's paid for, so
And it's paid for.
there's
So
nothing more freeing.
I know. So I rented this giant space with the down payment on this job, you know. And I very quickly, I bought some tools and I started saying, you know, making canvases is amazingly easy now, you know. And let me back up.
It's easy for you.
Well, no, let me back up.
Okay.
I rented the space to paint in, but before I rented the space, I started putting bids out for all the canvases.
Oh.
There was 12 of them, and they were all kind of large and kind of various sizes. So the bids I was getting back were huge.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Huge.
These are big
expensive.
pieces too.
Big, you know, big-ish pieces. These weren't all big, but I started putting the pencil to paper. I said, man, if I was making these instead of, I always made my own as it was, stretched my own and made them, because as I told you, I made things, you know, so it was always easy for me. But I'd have to pull out the saw and cut the wood and, you know, screw it together. I mean, it was kind of a procedure every time. So I decided to start a business making canvases, because the bids and I started ordering them, you know, and getting samples and just extreme crap. You know, just the worst quality of stuff that you can imagine.
Were you researching the market here in Austin for other?
You
Were
know,
there other canvas makers?
I made one brief set of calls, and like, you know, I didn't get a call back for a few days from one, and like, it just felt really loose. And so I immediately said, you know what, that's, you know, nobody has established that, you know, at that point. Now, I've since learned of some guys, you know, but like, there's always going to be some guys, you know,
On the side.
Yeah, sure.
Not with a name for their business.
Right. But I mean, we've actually taken and engineered, you know, like the frames. I mean, like we consider them the best engineered, and we now have clients. I mean, I have one client that I make probably 20 canvases a month. I mean, she just ordered 17, just like wedged an order, and I'm leaving for a trade show in a week, and I've got to like knock out this like 17 piece, and I mean big, like 6 by 6 feet, 5 by 5 feet, you know, those sort of sizes.
Where are they going to? Those
to her studio for her to paint
in Austin.
Then,
Oh, that's good to hear.
Her name is Meredith Pardue, and she makes gorgeous paintings. I mean, but she's a machine. She has 7 galleries she shows in New York, and she can knock them out 10, 15 a month, you know. And so that's the kind of, well, you know, that's where our business, we are now sort of, it's kind of become this 2-part thing. It's actually, for me, it's 3 parts. It's paintings and try to satisfy my own galleries.
Yeah.
It's making custom canvases of specific sizes and quality for artists on almost a contract basis.
Yeah.
And then we have a line of hemp fabrics and canvases and hemp and recycled that we sell nationally. And that's, I mentioned the trade show that I'm going to. So dickblick.com, if you know the art retailer.
Yeah.
They just started selling. I sold them last year at the trade show. So.
Awesome. And this is canvasland.net. This is
It
your
is.
business.
That's right. I should. Yeah. I'm a terrible salesperson. Like
It doesn't
always.
sound like.
Well, I'm sitting here talking to you, and so I have a chance to get it out. But like, I always walk away from encounters going, "Man, I should have given them a
I should
card.
follow them, yeah.
I should have told them."
But you've got to pick what to. You've got your art. You've got to give them that card. But then and then you've got your music.
Well, there's always the issue, when you're an artist, especially a young artist. It's like, well, I'm never going to tell anybody that I wait tables or that I'm doing this other job or doing whatever because I want to be an artist.
Right.
I've got to be this thing, and I've got a kid now, right? I once my wife and I we had a baby together, a son.
Wow.
I have an 8-year-old, and I started thinking one day, I'm having success as an artist selling paintings, and that's great, but if something happened to me,
yeah.
that stops.
Yeah.
No matter how successful you become, unless you've developed some engine whereby you're selling copyrighted prints, where the money will just keep flowing. But otherwise, in the secondary market even, you don't get a dime of that.
Right.
It's all...
And it's not a stable market
It's
at
not.
all. It goes up and down and...
It's not. So
Yeah.
so I decided to build the business really to build something for my family, and for my son.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
That's
And to get to do... It's amazing. I mentioned Joyce Howell earlier. Meredith Pardue is another big client. I get to go into these people's studios,
Yeah.
to deliver their... it's the next best thing to collaborating with them.
Right.
I've got this thing I made with my hands, I mean, we have a giant, an 8-foot stretching machine and, pneumatic nailers and all this stuff, but I'm still cutting things by hand, I'm branding them, and
Yeah.
it makes me very proud. I'm extremely happy to do that for artists and be a part of their professional life.
And make something good. There's a lot of crap. There's a lot of crap.
Well, a lot of what's affordable that's out there for
Yeah.
artists, even in kind of the larger sizes, is all imported. It's all
Sure.
imported from Vietnam or from China or from India.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make something that was of a really high quality that skirted in between. I mean, it's more expensive than that imported stuff, but
Yeah. Nope.
it's less than you would generally pay somebody to have make it by hand because I've got a production line that does it fast.
And what's up with hemp? How'd you go with that?
Well, okay, so when you start a company and you start ordering hundreds of yards of cotton fabric and you're buying wood and you're cutting it up and, consuming these resources, you really start thinking about that right away. I think, if you have any kind of, if you think about such things, which I do.
Yeah.
And so I immediately started tailoring all my purchases as much as I could towards sustainability and eco-friendly, wood that's been, sustainably grown, young growth forests,
Yeah.
and hemp, came along. And it turns out that hemp is actually one of the original painting surfaces along with linen, and it has many properties of linen, in fact.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I'm just going to tell you this, that canvas, the root word for canvas is cannabis.
Wow.
So
Wow.
at one time, all canvas was made from cannabis, which was made from hemp.
Jeez.
So really, and many of Van Gogh's masterpieces are painted on hemp canvas. Many pieces of art. So we feel like as a crop that should be legal to grow here, and that we feel like will be legal to grow here very soon.
Yeah.
You see like marijuana, pots legal to grow
Yeah.
in some states now, and I think that'll be legal to grow here. So I mean, we're just trying to really get ahead of the curve on that, and
Yeah.
so we sell our slim line of products. We do stretch our big stuff. We can go up to 55 inches wide.
Wow.
But the bigger you get, it is a bit like linen in that it is a bit more susceptible to environment and weather and things. So when we get large, we like to do cotton duck. When we get
But it's
large.
more affordable, right?
Than cotton?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, really? Hemp
No,
doesn't?
that's the other thing is the cost of importing it
Wow.
adds to it. So it's a bit of a challenge asking artists to spend a little more on something that they really don't have to.
Yeah.
Because God knows I wouldn't have not very many years ago.
Yeah, but you should. I would suggest artists to go to canvasland.net. I was surprised. You're looking at bolts. You're looking at thick wood. You're looking at very sturdy.
I was taught
Which
how
goes
to make.
a long way. Yeah.
I was taught how to make these frames by one of my teachers at SMU, and he taught me the secret of taming wood, just simple pine boards, which is to make a T out of them. Basically, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if people listening could understand, but if you have a T and you've ripped both of those parts out of a board that's biased the same way, and then you turn them 90 degrees,
Yeah.
then those two boards are going to hold each other straight once you fasten them together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we do.
They're racking up a little bit.
We nail them together and glue them together straight, and so
Yeah.
that's our perimeter frame. Is like a T. And
Instead of just one piece of wood
instead
beveled.
of just one beveled piece of wood,
Yeah.
right? So there's just a cut that occurs. There's no milling that you're like milling the stretcher bar with this crazy profile that leaves,
Yeah.
a million wood chips.
It's almost like a frame built sort of like a affordable frame.
Sure.
Well, create an L or something. Around.
Yeah, well, if people go to the site, I mean, they can see we have pictures of it there.
Yeah.
Just the process, and I like to think, as a furniture maker, that's something, I take pride in making something, and it's very strong, it's very lightweight, it can withstand corner hits, it can withstand flexing.
Yeah.
And that's very important. It's very strong from a flex, like a twisty point of view. I mean, I've gone to my client shows, and I go and I look at their giant paintings on the wall.
Yeah.
And they are flat against the wall.
Yeah,
I mean, and that is important to me. And that is
tough in Texas too with the weather.
Well, the other thing that we do, and I feel like such a pimp when I'm talking about the company, but and I just sprayed some on the way over here. We spray all of our perimeter frames with hemp seed oil. Which, if you read like traditional kind of canvas making text, it'll say to seal the perimeter frame with some sort of sealer, and none of the major makers do that.
No.
It's just raw wood. So, so we seal that and let it dry a full 24 hours, and that gives it this wonderfully clean. I mean, the hemp seed oil is like a food product. I mean, it's literally I wear no mask, no protection. I use a very low pressure sprayer.
Nice.
And it leaves this wonderfully clean tack on it. So then when you stretch the canvas, it really helps. It like almost grabs the canvas, as you're like stretching and stapling. So,
wow.
So we think we make a super high quality, product.
Yeah. Have you looked at Ampersand at all?
We know the folks at Ampersand. Yeah,
they do, like wood panels.
Well, they make panels. Yeah, and they're anyone can make a panel. Any carpenter can make you a panel that's cradled. But Ampersand has perfected the surface. You do not... Their surfaces are really nice. I mean, anybody that can afford...
It's still wood, though. Like, it still... Isn't a big piece of wood more susceptible to bending than canvas?
Well, you have to cradle it underneath with some solid wood, like strips of wood, that are laid out under there to keep it from twisting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm always just amazed though at the price difference between a wood panel and a canvas.
Well, there's a couple of makers out there. There's some guys, Moose. I'll give them a shout out because they're a little bit of competitors, but they make more panels and kind of custom shapes.
Is that here?
They're in Buda. You can find them online.
And Ampersand moved to Buda recently.
Yeah, they did,
which was a fucking bummer.
Well, I know them from the trade shows. I've been taking our Canvasland products to the trade the NAMTA, the National Art Materials Retailers trade shows for the last few years, and we were selling. Shout out to David Lampla, who I think he was your very first interview.
Yeah.
David's an excellent guy.
He works at Azel.
He works at Azel. I actually talked the local manager there into selling our stuff there at the store, and I don't know, they sold 5 or 6 canvases at retail, like without the other stuff, the other brand that I won't mention that everybody in the world sells.
Yeah.
That I know these guys too now.
Okay.
They're marking them down 50%. My stuff's selling at retail, but you go to the trade show and try to sell the boss man, on it. It's a whole different story. So I had to pull my stuff from Azel. But Dave, you mentioned on the podcast that David worked there, and yeah, he's
He's a great help.
I still go and buy art materials there, but
Basically.
and they all wish that we were selling our products there, but maybe after this year we'll see.
Yeah. So when you're doing these trade shows, is there any inclination to be pushing your paintings? Are you even trying to?
There's none at all, because the people there absolutely are not artists. It's
Yeah.
like I absolutely was shocked. The first year you go into this giant floor full of the most premium art materials on the planet.
Yeah.
And everybody there is a businessman
Yeah.
or a salesman or a buyer. They have some artists that demo, like the big companies will have
Oh, geez.
artists like making paintings, or like one year they did a car. Like this
Yeah.
guy airbrushed a car, and
We talk about demos a lot.
demos, yeah,
And the horrible-
doing demos. And I thought about like when you're doing demos myself,
Yeah.
like actually, and I'm like, no, I'd never be able to talk to people and sell the product.
Yeah, that's the biggest trouble that I find with artists is just making that split from promoting yourself as a business person and really being able to make your art effectively. I see 90% of artists just going, screw it. I'm going to teach, screw it. I'm going to make my paintings or I'm going to tell the whole world to get stuffed so I can really focus on my art, because they're both so hard to do well.
There's a couple of similarities though that I can point out. I've looked at building the business
Yeah.
like an art project. I mean, literally. I mean, my logo, I did a reverse vinyl cut and then block printed it and then scanned it, so it would have
Canvasland logo?
Yeah, the Canvasland logo, so it would have that old look. I mean,
Yeah.
I literally did it that way. I just had a wood burner made with the brand,
With a lasso?
Yeah, well, I didn't
awesome.
I didn't do the lasso. No, I didn't do the border. It was going to cost like $150 extra. So, but I mean, all the little bits of the business, of the branding, and of
And that's marketing too, not taking the lasso, taking that out. You're like thinking about.
It's you have to think about it all at once, And,
But painting, you've got to. It's all no rules.
well, there are though. I mean, that's the thing, is that I'm gonna tell an anecdote about one of my galleries and like how. I mean, you just have to stay true to your vision. You have to paint what you really see. What you really see in your mind's eye, or what you actually see. You experiment and do whatever, but you have to be very, be true to your art. Make what you really want to make, not what's in, faddish or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have to listen. Like if you're okay, this is a good story. The woman that I show with in Boston, who sold the paintings to Steve Carell that I was showing, which I can mention that, and for a while they didn't want me to even talk about it, but
Oh, really? Why?
Because it was just celebrity, and that's kind of, they like to keep that hush hush. I mean, people like their anonymity, but it's been a while now. And
Oh, Steve wants his anonymity or
Steve,
something.
yeah, I mean, like the designer who was working for him and his wife, doesn't want all the artists to go screaming to the top of their lungs on social media.
He's a buyer.
That he bought their. I mean, I can,
I see.
again, I've leaked the information out. Anybody that has private messaged me on Facebook has found out. But she, when I first hooked up with her, I sent her some work on the advice of Mia Baxter, again, who has helped my career in many ways. And so I sent her some work. And she sent it back, like kept it for maybe 3 or 4 months, and said, "Yeah, sorry, this isn't working out. Sending back your work. Best of luck."
Whoa.
Ooh, gut punch. I mean, it was like, well, I had the one gallery. I thought, okay, now here's my second gallery, and like they've rejected me,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. I may not have even been with Anne Connolly at that time, so maybe it was sort of like. I thought I was taking this major step, and she promptly sent my work right back, and it was basically because the actual object wasn't what the image purported to be. She sells work that's extremely finished, extremely polished, extremely well made. And there was just some sketchy aspects of what I was doing that looked great on an image, but like just didn't look substantial.
Weird.
I mean, it's sort of, there's an adage some people say, if there's white on your painting, you should have painted it white. Don't just leave your white canvas showing through. Now, that's here or there. I mean,
De Kooning called them holidays, no holidays.
Well, right.
Cover the whole
cover the whole
thing.
canvas. I do believe in that, actually. I mean, I try to do that. if there are ever any little bits here or there, I always try to spray them with varnish or like something. But
Yeah, I was reading about urethane, which is weird.
yeah,
Oil, is that like a varnish?
well,
Or?
I do use polyurethane, which is you can get water based or oil based, and I do use the oil based, the devil stuff.
Wow.
You know, and I try to wear a mask when I've got most of that stuff out, or a respirator, I should say,
Sucks
not
the
a mask.
fun out of everything.
It just fogs up my glasses and makes a sweaty mess out of my face.
Oh god.
And but yeah, but it's you know you got to really ventilate well, and you know just be as careful as you can. But yeah, well you knocked me off myself.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I keep doing that.
I talk a mile a minute. Jules, Julie Musfer in Boston. So she sent my work back. She rejected me. Oh, you know that hurt. You know so. But I sent a nice note back. Said you know thank you very much. You know I'm really grateful for the opportunity. And you know I came and went with some other galleries. Like I said, I've shown with several galleries here in Austin. Russell Collection, Art on Fifth.
Which is now on Lamar.
Which is now on Lamar. I like Joe's a nice guy. I mean, they're kind of the target of art, you know what I mean? But still have some lovely things there.
They're
you know?
really They do a lot of cool group shows. And
Yeah.
They're very helpful.
I'm good friends with Joe that runs the place. Yeah, and his daughter is actually a production designer in L.A. now. So I sort of, you know, he and I talked through like some of the ins and outs of that life. You know, like as I was moving here, his daughter was just beginning her career out there, you know, and what I had just left. So, showing different galleries. And so anyway, you know, you keep working on your stuff. And I took what this woman said about my art very much to heart. And I started really improving and sort of trying to consider, you know, all of the painting and just being very thorough.
And the photography, are you doing that?
Just being very, very thorough with making good images and all of that. And about 3 years later, she came to me. You know, she came back and said, hey, you know, I was looking at some of your new stuff and I like what I see. Send me some stuff. And let me tell you, man, she sells everything I send her.
Wow.
I mean, just, you know, I just sent her 2 more pieces and I fully expect to go to her website and see red dots on them like any day. I mean,
wow. And you're shipping your stuff to her?
Sorry. Well, I do. I ship stuff to her. Sometimes I use, you know, an art shipper, and that's another reason that we, you know, Canvasland canvases, and I'm just gonna. God, I feel like such a whore. They're for their strength. They're as light as you will find, and that is extremely important.
Oh, yeah.
If you start shipping 5, 6, 10, a dozen paintings across country. You're going to quickly find out just how much that stings.
And no one wants to pay for that. The purchaser,
I can get... There's a company out of Santa Fe that slow boats them. They have a small fleet of Sprinter vans that make slow loops. So West Coast, Central states, and then East Coast, including Atlanta, Boston, New York. And, you know, you call them up and they go, well, we'll be through Austin in about 2 weeks. And you just wrap your paintings up good. You don't have to box them.
Yeah.
But then it takes like 6 weeks to get them to. So it's but you know they still charge you $1,000 for a bunch of paintings, but it's significantly less money
than USPS.
Than well, I mean the UPS and or FedEx won't insure work for enough to. I can't use them. So, I did recently, and I just swallowed hard. I just crossed my fingers and swallowed hard. I had to send a piece quickly to somebody, and
just went for it.
You box them up really good, and you know.
So, if I can ask, are these exclusive contracts with these galleries? You don't sell any of your own work, do you?
You know, here in Austin, I'm able to sell my own work.
Oh, cool. It's geographic.
It really depends. Like, you know, my last gallerist here, Lisa Russell. If she didn't have something in her under her roof, she felt like it was okay for me to sell. Now, I've always had like an ersatz gallery here in Austin. A lot of people in Austin may know my work at Maiko on 6th Street. It's a Japanese restaurant. It's right next to the Belmont.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, it's just right there, and there's just a very short block there. And I don't know, 5 years ago, the guy managing the place, somebody I knew, he said, hey, can you put your artwork up in our restaurant. And so through like 3 owners and 5 managers, I've somehow managed to keep the marquee of the main dining room in that place. I mean, it's just where I call it my painting storage.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Get,
how many pieces?
it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 large and 1, 2, 3 small.
That is good storage.
Yeah, it's great. And I have a bio up on the wall, and I keep them in fresh art. Somebody might buy one occasionally, and so I go replace it.
That's interesting.
I just took a load of paintings to Atlanta because I have a new representation there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's that?
And Pryor, Fine Art.
Okay. Atlanta's great.
Well, I tell you, yeah, that's my latest gallery, and they just sold a piece, and I'll tell you, my philosophy about that, is just that when I sent all the new work back to Boston to go to work back with Jules, I made it a point to go there. I went and I flew to Boston, and I went to their gallery. They had a little party, a little reception, and we all went out to eat, and I just made that personal connection.
Yeah.
I mean, it costs money. I mean, you got to invest the money to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm telling you, if you do the math, and look at what she has sold, I've I mean, it pays for itself.
Pays
I
off,
mean,
yeah.
it really does. Same with Atlanta. I just drove my first load of paintings, in part because I'm a cheap ass and I didn't want to spend the money to have them all shipped. Eight large paintings. And
That's a big drive.
I know, it's like the older I get, I drive to these trade shows and I find that I can just do it. I feel like an old truck driver. I just get on the road and just
Go for
turn
it.
on the radio and just kick back and just go. And I drove a load out there, and I don't know if that's the reason, but I tend to think it helps. And they just sold the largest last minute. I wasn't sure if they were going to take it piece that I threw in the trailer,
Nice.
And I guess, it's just, I think the key to success in art once that you're doing work that people like is just surviving.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, you have to make good work.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, nobody will want it.
Right.
Nobody. But then, getting that machine built, that engine built, and then getting it up and running and firing on all cylinders is just, it's as much of a job as any job out there.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
Non-artists talk about, they think we're just doing whiskey shots and bonbons and painting.
Not anymore.
No.
Those days are done.
They are done.
Especially for painters. And
Well, that's what I was going to say. A lot of times people ask me, I'm just talking. I'm sorry, you can interrupt me at any time. We're probably home 2 hours now.
no. Keep going. Yeah,
How long have we gone? I don't even know.
A little over an hour.
People, ask sometimes, well, how do you have success with galleries? How do you get them and keep them? I've talked a little bit about how you get them, and I was talking with, about Jules and how you keep them as you listen to them,
Yeah.
You have to understand, I've known a lot of really great artists who can't get along with gallerists.
Or people, yeah.
And what I mean is that you've got to be professional. You've got to be presentable.
Yeah.
You've got to be affable. You've got to be, if you're an artist and you make a wide variety of styles, you've got to be able to listen when that person says, "Oh, we don't really do green well."
Yeah.
You don't send them a green painting.
Yeah.
If they say, "Here's what we like about your work. Here's what we don't like about it," then you're stupid if you don't press on those things that they like about it.
Yeah.
A lot of artists, though, I tell you, are stubborn. They go, "Oh
stubborn,
God,
yeah.
I don't want to get pigeonholed. I don't want to be," they sort of, that rubs them the wrong way. And I'm telling you, if you want to be a pro and you want to sell work, you've got to listen to those people because they're the ones selling it.
Yeah, selling is the key, and a respect for the culture of business, which is not the greatest culture in the world. But if you don't have a respect for how that works, and a lot of artists don't. A lot of artists hate capitalism. They hate that part of our culture. But if you're going to sell paintings, you've got to pay the tax on that income.
You do.
And it's not a horrible culture. It's not that.
And listen, gallerists and the people that collect your work to a lesser degree, they want to know that you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
They do.
And they're investing.
That's right.
Yeah.
They want to know that you're still going to be selling work for at least as much as what they paid, like when they, like down the road.
Uh-huh.
That you're not just sort of, doing whatever. Now, you can go to the art school, museum, obscure, kind of route too,
Yeah.
and like if you're extremely brilliant, you might get discovered and start selling your work for a lot of money. But if you want to just get in there and sell some work, you're gonna be pliable,
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And that's
Yeah.
that's you're talking about the 1%ers, and that's why we talk about Picasso and de Kooning, is because they're one in a Cezanne. How many of those?
Artists have had, that's why you can't be too political as an artist, because
Uh-huh.
artists have had patrons, from time immemorial. I feel like a bit of a hypocrite if I, criticize the 1%, because like they're most of the people who buy my art. There's no doubt about it.
Uh-huh.
I can't afford my own art. That's basically how it is. And I try to sell to friends and family and stuff. Like on a real discount, but at some point you got to go, shit, if I give this to my galleries, they'll sell it for a lot of money. So I'm actually losing money
Yeah.
if I'm selling, at a reasonable price to people. They often go, oh God. But the thing is, what I was going to say, you got to, they need to know that you are going to be able to deliver when they ask,
Yeah.
and they want to know that.
Mm-hmm.
If I give you a show,
Yeah.
are you going to be able to deliver me 15 paintings that I'm not going to unwrap when they get here and go, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, they're in business.
Are they? Well, I've had many gallerists tell me it's like they sell a dozen paintings by an artist who would deliver stuff they loved, and then they give them a show and they deliver some horse shit,
Yeah.
or something that was completely off on a tangent and that they just couldn't sell. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, it's just galleries have audiences and clients.
Yeah, and they've got a
markets.
really tough road.
That's right. And so, for the same reason you want to look for a gallery that you fit in with, which I haven't even covered that, but I assume everybody knows that. If you don't solicit a realist portrait gallery if you're if you're an abstract artist, clearly, or if all they sell is photographs or drawings.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's even micro within that.
Sure.
So yeah, that's what they really want. They want. They don't want just brilliance or like beautiful works. They want to know that you can make those things like a machine.
And that you're going to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things painters are having to do now is do podcasts, which I'm like, not 100% stoked. I mean, it's great to talk about, but we both have Twitter accounts. You've got Facebook, and they want to see people active on those things. 'Cause
Sure.
You've got to promote your art and promote yourself.
You do.
They've got to do the same thing, and it's...
You do. And social media is a whole new ballgame. When I
Yeah.
started out, it wasn't, God knows. I found my pager the other day. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, it's like we didn't have, not only did we not have the internet hardly, but, we just didn't have smartphones or anything.
And you just got a smartphone, right, recently?
Well, no, I had a
But
pretty
you,
good-
an iPhone, so...
I had an LG, like the one that slides open with a keyboard. It's like a BlackBerry.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was such a Luddite with the screen, and still I got an iPhone. Yeah, I finally succumbed, but
different.
I hate typing on it because I could type while I could. This is horrible. I could text while driving or like in traffic. I'd try to be reasonable, but I could do it without even looking at it.
Yeah.
Because I could feel the keys, with my thumbs. But I succumbed to the iPhone because in part, the camera is so amazing, and it's you gotta work the social media.
Are you doing Instagram and?
I am doing Instagram, and I tend to just be such a cut up though. Like I can't stay serious about it.
It's hard on Facebook.
I do these things halfies. You see my halfies where I'll take a magazine and fold it in half, and I'll like photograph the lower half of my head or the bottom half with it. It drives my wife crazy. She's probably crazy if she's listening to this right now or when she listens to it.
People love that stuff too.
Some people just absolutely love it, and some people just absolutely hate it. It just creeps them right the hell out.
Well, you can't. You've also got to. Part of being a successful painter is also marketing and branding your
Yes.
personality.
Yes.
And you've got to put some of that out there.
Yes.
And it's
and I swear to you though, it's really true. There's a local scene, and I know there are local collectors.
Yeah.
That buy and trade in art and things. It's just my exposure to them is limited,
Yeah.
And I know that when I go to talk to folks at like Canopy, it's like they're not going to buy my art, probably not. A lot of the folks I talk to, and I like people. I like just going and talking to people, but I I don't really have any illusions about helping my painting career, like
see.
to mention that I'm an artist.
Is that because it's a different scene or something? Or I mean, why?
Well, no, it's like usually, I mean, unless you're on the tour, then you know what I mean? It's like coming at it from different directions, My assistant at Canvasland, who I'll mention, her name is Chris White, and she's a wonderful painter herself. She helps me at Canvasland. We make, and I bounce all my ideas off of her. It's funny, she was in the film business, actually. It's a great story, actually. She and I did a movie. We were in the production office together, and I got fired from the film because I clashed with the director, this woman. Long story, but I was doing my job, and she didn't like it. Yeah. And I wasn't, like, kissing her butt. And so flash forward, like 6-7 years, I'm practicing yoga with this girl at the studio, and she knows I have a canvas company. She needs a job. We start talking, and we realize she was the production manager on that job, and we had worked together in the film business. And she also abandoned the film business for an art career. Wow. So, but Chris is a fantastic helper. She has a space at Canopy.
Oh, right.
And so I always go during East. I always at least go to Canopy.
Yeah, the open studios.
Yeah, some wonderful artists there, and she, I mean, the advantages of being part of a scene are many.
Sure.
It's just I'm just admittedly not much of a part of that.
Yeah.
Again, I'd love for people to, if you go to the website, all my contact info. I'd love for people to like message me or like even call the shop and come by and see what we do. I mean, it's all good.
Yeah.
There's a program that I've started to work with called Draw. It's a City of Austin program. We're giving all of our off-fall canvas to.
Uh-huh.
You give them your scrap and unused materials, and you can take whatever you want. You don't even have to give stuff to go take stuff. I mean, I think all Austin artists should know about this. It's called DRAW. I'm not sure what the acronym is exactly, but it's the City of Austin. They take this stuff in as like hazardous waste, like Austin, like art materials.
Oh wow!
That they if nobody claims them, they destroy them. But they started pulling them out and setting them aside. So.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to chuckvoelter.com, VOELTER, at Chuck Voelter at Twitter, canvasland.net. You're kind of doing it all. I'm not sure where to end, but I feel like we can go on for hours. There's so much to cover.
Well, I mean, it's like I tell people if they're looking at my website. I've had a website for about 15 years. I learned how to build a website back in my film days, and I put film stuff up, and so
and music.
Yeah, and music. I mean, that was part of.
And construction.
I still do singer-songwriter stuff. And so
you do gigs?
I don't do a lot of gigs anymore, but I still have a MySpace page. I mean, people could actually go. If you go to my website, chuckvoelter.com, there's an other link, and that will actually take you. At some point, my website was so film and music centric that instead of redesigning it, I just started over.
Yeah.
And so, but I include a link to all that, and there's film business stuff, celebrity photographs, and all kinds of crazy stuff, But my main thing is like if you want to be in you just got to stay busy, like stay driven. Don't worry about you have to take all of the interest, things that interest you as an artist, let those winds blow you about sometimes. It's like maybe you're not, like my anecdote I was telling you about my neighbor, the skateboard kid. Maybe you're not supposed to be a skateboarder. Maybe you're supposed to be a rollerblader. I mean,
stay at it until you can't.
Yeah. Just stay at it until you figure out what it is.
And give up or don't, or keep going. Or I know tons of artists that give up, and it's like
I think we need to redefine what it means to give up. Nowadays you can create a tiny little product, have a great little idea, start a little website, a little web business.
Yeah.
I'll promote Chris again, my helper at Canvasland. She paints with encaustic, but she makes her own like cold wax encaustic.
Oh wow!
And she gets the raw materials and she makes it and she sells it. It's just
online.
Online. It's
and Canopy, if
well, her company's Dane Ridge Wax, I think, if you were to Google that. But my point is that don't be afraid to mix. You know, the fact is you may not just be a painter and sell enough paintings to make a living, and that's forever and ever amen.
Right.
You might want to diversify. You might, and as close as you can get that to your career, you know, obviously the better. You know,
Yeah.
so. You know, but you got to do stuff that makes you happy too. You know, as best you can.
But you have to balance it. You can't just do one or the other. The social media stuff too. This is it's so amazing that we have free. For now, it's free, but we have somewhat free access to self promotion.
I feel like Facebook probably already has started charging really for the best promotion. You know, you have to boost your post,
but you can still get under the. You know, you can.
It's free. It's free web hosting.
Yeah,
it is free. You can post as many images as you want and send people to that page. You know, and so and just in that regard, it's you know,
Twitter too.
It's a resource that we should all of course be using. You know,
the keywords are a thing on Facebook. I just got disabled recently, and I finally realized. It was because I was using the word sale in my posts. But I can still post photos of my art, but I've got like 4,000 friends.
Right.
And that is a really good resource for getting my art sold nationally.
Well, I tell you.
And exposing it to people who are... And not doing a business page either, just doing it as a personal page and popping it up, popping art up on them. Kind of.
I think in that regard, I mean, it is a community in that regard, you know, like... people that you like or you like their work, you know.
Yeah.
You can reach out and network and be a part of a community. You may never have even met the person.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I know I have a lot of friends like that, you know.
Yeah.
That I consider to be their friend and their art friend, you know, and we've never even shook hands, you know what I mean? But so it's great like that. And anybody that come one, come all, I will, you know, pimp me and I'll pimp you right back. You know? I mean, I will...
being able to see inside famous painters' lives, that's unprecedented in our... Well... in real time, you know.
You know, it's important, though. I've got to tell one more story. I'll do it really quick. But when I was in school, the best thing that art school ever did for me, because I learned a few tricks, things I still do, some stuff, technical things from artists and painters, and was inspired. But we took a trip to New York, and the leader of our trip was friends with Julian Schnabel, and ran into him and said, "Do you mind if I bring my kids to your studio?"
Yeah.
So 7 of us, plus our leader, marched up to his 5th floor Tribeca or meatpacking district Tribeca studio.
It wasn't the Pink Castle?
It is. It was,
Castle.
But it was way before it was the Pink Castle. He has since done that to it. But it was he's owned that building for a long time.
Yeah.
But it was at that time in the scrungiest, dirtiest, nastiest part of town ever.
Yeah.
You had to literally sneak in a door like you didn't even know where the entrance was. It was like some weird club. But it's all in the movie Basquiat. You know,
really?
like everywhere that Gary Oldman and Jeffrey Wright are playing. In fact, I'll finish with this anecdote. It's pretty amazing. We went and stayed for about 3 hours. He took us through his bedroom and showed us his Picasso and all these big, giant, iconic paintings of his that, like you've seen in books, were in his house. You know, and they're all double high every floor, a giant freight elevator and. So as we walk into his main foyer, though, there's a giant painting leaning up against the wall, and it says for JMB, and initials at the very top, for Jean-Michel Basquiat. Mm-hmm. And he said, I painted that painting for Jean-Michel the day he died. Mm. And we all went, wow, you know, that's heavy. Well, then a few years later, I watched the movie Basquiat, and Gary Oldman tells Jeffrey Wright as Basquiat, as they're walking in the same exact spot, he gestures to the painting, which actually says J and B on the top.
Mm-hmm,
and he says, I painted that for a friend the day he died. And they walk past it. That's in the movie. And he's talking to John. So there was this weird, I went, oh my God, you know, he said the very same thing to us. You know, he probably tells everybody that when they first come to his house. But anyway, you know, that was a very inspiring thing. Like I said, he told me to quit school. He's like, the money you're giving to SMU, quit school and just make art. You know?
Really?
Yeah. It's exactly what he said. And but I went and saw him lecture this last year at the Dallas Contemporary.
Oh,
and
really?
got a little selfie with him and shook his hand again. And
Wow.
I actually asked him a question during the Q&A that made him cry.
Really?
I felt very odd, very weird about it. Yeah, I mean, not. I didn't
Congratulations.
Say, I didn't say like, well, why aren't you paying child support or anything,
Right.
mean, It was just a question about, about painting and about his life, and he got very emotional talking about his family, about, I can't remember at this moment. I'm trying to think what the.
He was in Brownsville too for a while.
Yeah,
His second job.
He's originally from Houston, I think. Yeah.
Well, I thought he was from New York, but his family came down here and then he went back.
Right.
He's a really interesting dude. I think there's a guy, Lauren Monk, on YouTube. Schnabel had a show, I think, last year, A View of Dawn in the Tropics. I don't know if that one's in there.
Yeah.
But they're from that same period.
Yeah.
I guess the 90s or something.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
real interesting cat.
and that's his movie, right? Basquiat was Schnabel's movie.
He's a brilliant film director.
Yeah, and there's tons of stuff in there from their actual
absolutely,
lives,
just the one I described. But my favorite, I should have stuck around at the lecture. This girl that I know was looking at his paintings, and he walked up behind her and like took her hand and put it on his painting.
Yeah.
Like just said, like, feel that,
Uh-huh.
and it's okay. It's my, it's mine. I thought that's pretty neat, for.
Who gets to do that?
Well, somebody like that, he's very down to earth.
Yeah.
All the times I encountered him. But so anyway, I don't know what the point of that or how that ends the conversation, but you've got to use and build on and listen to and just
and work hard. He got in putting his like slides, like photographic slides in bread or something, and he'd leave it.
Which he admits was like a complete cliche, or like a trick,
But
kind of
do
trick.
something. Work hard.
Yeah.
Stay at it. I mean, it looks from outside. It looks like he just got there magically.
Right.
But all those dudes busted. They busted their ass.
Well,
Everyone's having to.
They did, and what I was talking about, his relationship with Mary Boone in the early days just relates exactly to what I was talking about. Now, I don't have experience with a gallerist of Mary Boone's stature or whatever, but they butted heads because she developed him. I mean, like he didn't just spring fully forth onto the scene in a vacuum.
Right.
You do. You have to talk to somebody about your, what you're doing. So, but yeah, just survive. Just hang in, keep making art, and don't be afraid to survive. Make it a part of your art life as best you can to survive.
Yeah, and go to canvasland.net.
right.
Go to chuckvoelter.com.
And use only the finest quality art materials, which includes stretchers by canvasland.net.
Yeah, man, but so I think we'll wrap it up.
All right.
I really appreciate you coming and talking, and
I'm sorry you got to ask so few questions. I'm just talking.
No, I feel like we touched on some of it. So
well, I'm happy to. My experience is what it is. I mean, again, I'm not very Austin centric, and I'd really like to connect with more people here. So maybe I need to get out a little bit more. And,
it comes and goes. You're Texas-centric. We're glad you're back. We're glad you're in our scene. Thank you for everything you do. I know you're busting your ass.
Oh, that's very gracious.
It can't be easy. It can't be easy painting, running a business, doing it all, and you've got a kid.
The opportunity to do it is a blessing. It's like these are. To say I'm too busy is such a first world thing to say. Such a first world problem.
Yeah. Congrats to your mom for being.
All right.
For finding.
Converting last night. Yeah, she did.
Good times.
Yeah.
So, this is Austin Abstract. I hate to end on that.
That's okay.
But
that's
Austin
okay.
Abstract Artist.
It's
Easter today.
That's right.
It's fucking weird.
Happy Easter, everybody.
I cannot be not reminded that just Easter's everywhere. But Austin Abstract Artist Podcast number 12. I'm Carl Smith, chuckvoelter.com. High five.
All right. Thank you, Carl.
Everybody, this is Carl Smith. So that was Chuck Voelter. That was a really good interview. We both could have talked for hours and hours more about art making, Austin, business, but I feel like we gotta
a little intro into his world, canvasland.net, and there are a million ways to be an artist, and hopefully with this podcast I can reach diverse types of artists. I love all of them. You know, I love the dudes like Chuck that are working, that are doing it all, that are running businesses, and then there are, you know, artists that hate the world and just love their art, and it's all, you know, part of what we do as artists, and none of it's super easy, but if you're an artist and you love art, I mean, you've got to, you know, do your best to get it done before you're dead. And using everything at your disposal is the way to go. So, but yeah, I want to thank Chuck for coming. ChuckVoelter.com, Voelter. Check that out. There's a really good paintings there. And this was Austin Abstract Artists Podcast number 12. It's April 2015. I will see you at the next one. And take it easy. I love you guys. Thanks for listening. Peace.